Welcome back to WTF Sky, another edition of Middleman Politics, and we have a lot to go over today. Yesterday's executive orders that were signed and what that really means for this country's current situation when it comes to finances, economy. Are people going to be assured that we won't see a huge wave of poverty by the beginning of September? A lot of reasons to be concerned, so let's get right into it. All right, so let's go over a few things. And I want to try to do this in a calm manner, but also we need to explore what has happened in the past 16 hours. First of all, let's address the executive orders that Donald Trump signed yesterday. The first one was for evictions, and then he signed one for a payroll tax that was cut until the end of the year. Same with the evictions, that's what he said. And then we had the infamous unemployment benefits, which Donald Trump told everyone that there is a $400 benefit that would be paid to Americans instead of the $600. And then briefly, it was described that it would be, what's wrong?
What is it?
I'm just watching that. Don't worry about it.
Oh, well, it's on. It's broadcasting. That's why.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm using that for now. Just, you'll see. Anyway, so where was that? The bill for evictions, the bill for unemployment, which was $400, and then quickly he said $400 with $100 being chipped in by the state. But move on. And then the last one, which was the student loan executive order. I will now attempt to describe exactly what these executive orders really mean. And really, a lot of this, and kudos out to Mari for doing a lot of the research today. Huh?
Can you hide that layer for now if it's not in use?
I don't.
There's a reason why I say that. Just sorry.
There. I'll hide it, but I can't see it.
Why.
All right. I'm having a little issues with my software. Bear with me, folks. So anyway, those are the 4 bills that were signed yesterday by the president. I've got Fox News, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. I have all their websites up. And not a lot of them are giving a lot of details about what some of these executive orders actually mean. So as I was saying, thanks to Mari for doing a lot of digging today and found a collection of things that are useful and are starting to become a little bit more clear about what these executive orders mean. Let's address the eviction one first. The eviction executive order that President Trump signed is not a protection from evictions. It is a suggestion that has been placed in the HHS. Alex Azar is now in control of this. He has to declare a type of emergency that would warrant an eviction freeze. So basically, this executive order is saying we need to create this emergency announcement so we can get this process underway. and protect people from being evicted. Again, when he announced it, he said that this will take care of that, or most of it. And that was when he announced it live. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean most of it? What does that mean? And now that we've had time to look at this, what he means is that it's not really in his authority to take this kind of action. It has to go through a process. So he's basically nudge, nudge, wink, wink at the HHS, declare this emergency so we can inflict these policies on eviction relief. So I know that's a lot to take in. But when you look at these bills and you see that as you read deeper and look at these, and especially this one really caught me by surprise because he touted about how we need to protect Americans from being evicted, so on and so forth. I mean, the beginning of his speech was, we've had it. We're taking action. We're taking matters in our own hand. We're going to protect the American people. Okay? That's what he said. And signing this first executive order for evictions was what appeared to be a win for a lot of Americans who are facing that. So can you imagine the relief from watching this? But we don't really know what's in it yet, right? This just looks good. This just sounds good for all we know. And now we're starting to get the details of these executive orders. Now those families who thought yesterday, oh, thank God, we're not going to get evicted yet. We've got time to pay the rent. We've got time to catch things up. They're going to start unemployment benefits again. I just lost my job. I can't live off the state. All these fears were eliminated yesterday afternoon during this press conference. But we look at the first one, and it's not quite a protection yet. In fact, that executive order created red tape for that to happen. So we're not quite in the clear for that policy to help Americans right away. All right, that's strike one. Not totally honest. The next executive order that President Trump signed was the student loan. And let's exactly talk about what that means. These are not forgiven payments like they were speculated to be. This is a deferral without getting interest added on top of the deferred payments. So in other words, it's okay to miss your payments and you won't get interest charged for being late. That's what that bill is all about. And in my opinion, I say, yeah, let's hope that we're not penalizing the students who are going to school, earning a higher education, or already have that degree and are working on paying it off. Let's not punish them by charging them interest because of something that was no fault of their own. So thankfully, that is a common sense executive order that I can get behind and say, hands down, that had to happen. But at the same time, a little bit misleading, as it's not a forgiving. You still have to make those payments. And then after the period of time is expired, the interest is coming back on the loans. So really just a flat no news there, but it just makes him look good that he's trying to take care of student loan debt. And then we get into the meat of the 4 executive orders. And the first one is the payroll tax cut. Now, the payroll tax cut is not impacting Social Security like some on the far left are implying. That would happen if the president forgives payments from here till the end of the year. In other words, the payroll tax cut, it's not in his authority to make that permanent. He could suspend the payroll tax cut, but then it would resume and you would still have to pay back the money that you got without taxes being taken off. So really, it's just a loan from taxes being paid in the future. Is this how it works? Now, if I was an employer, I would have a meeting with my employees and ask them, would you like me to start taking your taxes out and give you all that money now, or would you rather just have the taxes continue to come out? That way you're not burdened with a larger tax bill the following year. Give them that option. To me, the payroll tax thing is bogus, in my opinion. We're talking about roughly, this is a bonus. Now, Larry Kudlow was on CNN and said that this payroll tax cut is a bonus that's averaging around $1,200 per worker to go back. So in other words, he's telling you that if you go back to work, this is going to add up by the end of the year around $1,200 for the next 4 months, right? Okay? So with that being said, hold on a second, I just got distracted with Pelosi here at the bottom. I was actually thinking about broadcasting the interview with Pelosi and Munchin, but I don't think that's gonna. I don't know if I should do that. That could cause copyright issues and whatnot. So anyway, so back to the bonus. If you go back to work, you're gonna get paid $1,200 between now and the end of the year because your taxes are gonna be cut out for a little bit. What they don't tell you is that you will have to pay that back. Now, during this announcement, President Trump said that if he wins the election, he may make it permanent. And what he meant by that, because so many people took that as that he might just take the payroll tax cut out of your check permanently. Larry Kudlow, the White House's top economics person, he cleared that up and said what President Trump meant by making it permanent, meaning that the payroll tax cut that is coming out of your check from August 1st through the end of this year, he will forgive the repayment of that if he wins the election. You see what's going on here, folks? He just basically bribed the entire United States. If you vote for me, I will give you this payroll tax cut at no charge to you. That's what Donald Trump is signaling to his people right now. And to people who are sitting on the fence. And I gotta ask you guys, is that appropriate for a time like this where there are so many families out there, so many working class families out there who maybe don't like Joe Biden and don't really care for Donald Trump, but they're broke, they're panicking. They're going to go out into the workforce and risk getting this virus when it's not safe everywhere yet for a measly $1,200. And if you vote for Donald Trump, you don't have to pay it back. And it was called a bonus for those who are working during the pandemic. That is the White House's opinion of a bonus, is that if I win, you don't have to pay the payroll tax cut back. I'll forgive that for the next 4 months. But if I lose, well, then, laws are laws. I can only suspend the payroll tax cut. I have to charge you back for the 4 months that you didn't have it taken out of your check. And I'm sorry, that's just, I suspended it. That's all I did. To me, that's cruel. So many families that are desperate right now. So many families that are worried about how they're going to pay their bills. And we have a president who misspoke and misrepresented the evictions bill, where there is no protection for evictions right now. It is just a suggestion from the administration to tell the HHS to declare this emergency so they can begin the process of protecting Americans from evictions. That's not an immediate relief. That's still an anxious time for Americans all over the country that are facing these situations. The student loan, yeah, I hope so. That's the right thing to do on most things right now. I don't understand why it was such a priority. This is probably something that could have worked out in a bill. But for some reason, the president thought it was important to know that your student loan will not gain any interest during this time of deferred payments. Gee, thanks. And then the third thing that we've discussed, which is the payroll tax. He's telling the American voters, if you vote for him and he wins, then you don't have to pay it back. But he misled by saying, I'll make it permanent. And then just this morning, he had to have Larry Kudlow clean up the mess by saying he didn't mean that he's going to completely stop the payroll tax. He just meant that the 4 months that you receive the payroll tax cut will not be, you don't have to pay it back. That's what Larry said this morning. If he makes it permanent, he just means he's forgiving those 4 months. Merry Christmas. There's your $1,200 for your bonus for working during the pandemic. By the way, $1,200. Yee. Okay. Sad that our essential workers and our brave individuals out there who have small businesses who have tried to stay open in some form during this pandemic, I feel bad for you guys. This is a gut punch. This is an absolute gut punch. There's no incentive. $300 a month is not an incentive. That's less than $100 a week in extra money to go back to work. From your original salary, you're only going to be making less than $100 extra a week. The Democrats had passed a huge $3.4 trillion bill that didn't make sense to conservatives because of how much it was. But it included the necessary things that we're talking about right now that would have already dealt with this. But this is more of a distraction, this payroll tax. And finally, the unemployment extension. I got to play clips of this, folks. This is important.
Overnight, President Trump said he's had enough. Therefore, I'm taking executive action. We've had it.
We've had it. He's taking action. That came out of his mouth. Okay.
Bypass Congress with the stroke of his pen. Taking to the podium at his private golf club to announce executive action on coronavirus relief. The president restoring unemployment benefits, but slashing the weekly checks to $400. Requesting states share the cost. Minimizing evictions, suspending interest on student loans, and enacting payroll tax cuts. President Trump placing the blame on Democrats after both parties failed to reach a deal. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have chosen to hold this vital assistance hostage on behalf of very extreme partisan demands.
Okay. So he is accusing the Democrats for withholding this vital relief from Americans all over the country because of political bipartisan. In other words, his reasoning for the executive orders is because he cares about the United States people and he wanted to provide relief. But he's blaming the Democrats and accusing them. Now, the Democrats passed a bill in May. The bill sat in the Senate for the rest of the month of May, June, July, through July recess, before they finally got serious about it in the last week of July. Their counteroffer was nearly 70% less than what the Democrats had come up with, and almost appeared to be an insult for negotiation. And I'll give you an example. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer's bill designated about $2 billion in food securities. The Republicans co-offered $215,000 in additional assistance for food. Remember, the Democrats said $2 billion to help secure food securities, and the Republicans said, nah, $215,000 only. So I understand why the Democrats and the Republicans are having a hard time reaching an agreement. They're not even in the same universe. They are galaxies apart. So when the president comes out and says, I'm taking action, I've had it, I'm going to help these people, I'm going to do this and do that, and then we break it down. And finally, this unemployment situation. 400 a week, says the federal government. But here's the kicker. If the state does not chip in 25% of that $400, in other words, the state, on top of the unemployment insurance they are paying you, some states it's $300, could be up to $400. I know it might be higher somewhere else. But on top of what the state is already paying for this crisis, the federal government wants the states to throw into the kitty, basically. Another $100 for each citizen. Now, mind you, a lot of governors are requesting government funding to help open schools, to help with budgets for the police department and the fire department and corrections. There is a lot at stake that taxpayers pay. And when you have employers and employees who are not able to conduct business as usual, you have less tax revenue flowing in. Now you're cutting away benefits, so you have less consumer confidence. Okay? Where is the state going to get the money to throw in an additional $100 towards unemployment? So here's the score. The state pays you, let's say, for instance, here in New York, it's $375. They chip in the extra $100. The state pays you $475. The federal government pays you $300. The state is carrying the bulk of the debt. But the federal government is bigger than the state and has more money available than the state. So why is it top heavy for the state government? And then the federal government accuses states of being ran poorly. They're losing tax revenue. They're going to have to make cuts. There are schools opening up in 700 districts here in New York, and they're going to need money for PPE. They're going to need money for cleaning services. They're going to need hazard pay for these teachers and staff. I don't understand the sense of those 4 executive actions yesterday. The only one that makes any sense and is true and is obvious is the student loan tax. So let's take that one out. The other 3 were misleading. He told you he was signing an eviction protection order. That's not true. He's giving HHS the go-ahead to declare emergencies so they can activate this protection. But they haven't done it yet. They've just added red tape to the process. President Trump said that He's going to cut your payroll taxes through the end of the year. And if he wins the election, you won't have to pay it back. Wow. I mean, did he really just bribe the American vote on national television at his golf club with members in the background cheering and booing? What is going on? There's no way any rational logic person out there who is listening just now, with the information that I provided, and it's all verifiable, you can look it up. I'm not exaggerating this. There's no way, if you're a rational person or logic, that you feel good about what just happened from the President of the United States. He's playing with the emotions of millions of unemployed citizens. I'm not saying they're all saints and angels. I'm sure there's some out there that are going to bleed the system dry. There are others out there who can't go back to work because they've been ill or they have underlying conditions. They're in that high-risk group. Those people are the ones that are suffering the most, or their job disappeared because of the shutdown. Which right now, sadly, my heart goes out to that American more than any, because we went through a shutdown and didn't complete it properly and didn't open up properly in the South and other places. So now all of that work that we did to slow down this initial spread is all for naught. All of it is done. It's wasted. And now there are Americans who are unemployed because their jobs, their companies couldn't stay open during this crisis. They're the ones that are being treated the worst. Opinion on Capitol Hill with the Republicans is that there's a lot of lazy people out there that would rather sit at home. I know a lot of people who make more money a week than what you're getting in unemployment. I know a lot of people. And I'll admit this, before the COVID crisis, there was a lot of that going on. A lot more. I felt like that people were making more money than what we've seen in the past. I know I can say firsthand from the career that I've had and my day job, the money I was making was a lot better than the prospects that I'd seen in years before. I don't know if that has anything to do with Trump. I'd like to say so. The economy was strong. The stock market was strong. Wages were going up. There were more people who were becoming homeowners and becoming stable before this crisis hit. So to those people who make $40,000, between $40,000 and $60,000 a year, or $40,000 or more, to those folks who are now getting unemployment assistance that's not even coming close to 70% of their bring home. Not even coming close. So I think as a logic person, when you see that yesterday's press conference at the private golf club was just a political PR move and is a way to deflect responsibility onto the states, onto the governors. And I think that's going to backfire big time. Governors like Larry Hogan, who's a Republican, I know there's a lot of Republicans who call him a rhino and he's not a true conservative and he's betraying his president. But you're going to see other names. They're going to subtly mention the same thing. Mike DeWine is one of them. He's not going to come out and attack Trump, but I don't believe the state of Ohio is going to come out and say, yeah, we got the extra 100. Don't worry about it. No. The state of Ohio has had a very, very long road to recovery when it comes to their economy. If you lived in Southwest Ohio, you know the impact of the truck and bus plant that closed down in Moraine, Ohio. You knew that impact. And it wasn't just the GM plant. it was the plants that synchronized parts or received parts or did some small stupid job for the parts. And then you had the bars that were open for when these employees got off of work to go, relieve some stress. The restaurants that were open around this plant that was open 24 hours. So there was tons of economic success that revolved around this GM plant. And I've never seen a region go down so hard and so fast than that area when that GM plant closed. And the average minimum wage paying job in that region is $8.50 an hour. So the states are already losing tax revenue. Some states are not doing as good as other states when it comes to economy. They can't afford this. So this is going to backfire because there are Republican-ran states who are going to say, you know what, Mr. President, I don't know if my state can swing this. And that means that if we can't chip in the $100, then the unemployed benefit goes to zero. That's right. If the state does not pay their $100, the federal government doesn't even chip in the $300. It's zero. So all you make is the state unemployment. You won't get the extra $400 that the president claimed that you will get. And when asked about specifics, when, he would say very rapidly. He would not give a specific on when or how. He would just quickly answer, it's going to happen very soon. It's going to happen very soon. And then he was abruptly fact-checked by a reporter who then got booed and jeered at by the rich private club members of this golf club that Trump, I believe, owns. Is this his golf club? This one in New Jersey? So, in front of God and everybody, he bribes the American voters by telling them, if you vote for me, you don't have to pay back the payroll tax cut that I put in that has to be paid back by law. But somehow he's going to make sure you don't have to pay it back if you vote for him and he wins. Let's take it another step further. He is in a golf club that is affiliated with his personal wealth. So money's being spent by the media and the press on meals, maybe lodging. So the president's businesses, private affairs, are also financially gaining from these grandstanding events like we saw on Friday and Saturday. Guys, look, I'm not trying to insult anybody who's a Trump supporter or make them feel bad. I'm not. I want to raise these very concerning issues with the public because I think a lot of people are falling asleep at the wheel. And the sad part is that right in front of us, I'm telling you guys, there has got to be something not mentally right with him for him to bribe. There's no other way. I mean, Mari, am I taking it too far by saying the president is bribing American voters? Is that taking it too far? He's telling you that if you vote for him and he wins, that you don't have to pay back that payroll tax cut for 4 months.
He is saying that, which I don't feel campaigning is appropriate when we're dealing with a crisis. They should be done and handled with separate.
First of all. But is that not a bribe?
It sounded like it.
And listen, guys, we're conservatives, all right? We are conservatives. Mari and I've been a conservative longer. Mari was at one point a Democrat supporter, and then saw how far left some of these people actually are and how extreme some of their views are. And, she said, I'm not all about that part, so I got to distance myself. I'd say Mari's more of a middle ground person, but still favoring the conservative side. Myself, I'm the same way. I'm a middle. I favor most conservative policies, but I'm not party blind. And when I see something that doesn't smell right, Mari and I both are the type of people that will call it out, even if it goes against the party that we support. These, to me, these actions that Trump have performed yesterday, all four of them were just lies. All four of them were props for his campaign. All four of them. And if you go back and watch the video of him signing them and the way he was reading through them, he was speed reading out loud. He was going, powered by me. And yep. Slam it shut, toss it down, pick up the next one, look at it like he's trying to read it, and then signs it with the signature that doesn't, I swear, I don't see how Donald J. Trump is in that signature, but that's his signature. But anyway, his behavior, he was glaring at somebody every time he signed an order. He was looking at somebody like he wasn't happy about something. I don't know. But I tell you what, if Trump didn't intend for any of this to come off the way it has come off, then he should fire every single person that advises him. If he's that naive and didn't realize that these executive orders are doing more harm than help. If he didn't realize that, then he should fire every single one of his advisors. But I really doubt that he didn't realize that. I really feel like that this was a political grandstand event. Again, unemployment, I don't know very many states that are going to be able to pay this $100. So you're not going to get the $400 that President Trump. So that was lie number one. That executive order does not really mean anything. Evictions are not protected yet. They can be if the HHS declares a certain emergency, and I'll get the details on what that emergency is. The payroll tax cut is in effect from August 1st until the end of the year and can be forgiven if you vote for Donald Trump and he wins. I don't know how that's not bribery. I just don't. He's telling America, look, if you vote for me and I win, you don't have to pay that back. That's worse than him asking Ukraine, hey, I'd like you to look into something for me. See, I was okay with him saying, would you mind looking into something for me? I have got a hunch. Now, if he was withholding aid because of that, then that's a problem. But they never were able to prove that he was withholding the aid because of that. So it's really not a point. But what I'm saying is that was a useful, hey, could you look into this? There might be some corruption here. This right here is flat out telling the public that if you do this and I win, then I will forgive the payroll tax cut. That is a quid pro quo. That right there, folks. Perfect definition. It's textbook. And I know there might be some of you out there that are like, Jake, you might be going too far on this one. You're just calm down, buddy. I get it. There's a lot of hate out there for Donald Trump. It's unfortunate. I supported him in 2016. I agreed with a lot of his economic policies, and the stock market looked good and that stuff. And I could see my life. I've seen drastic improvements in income and opportunity for careers. And then the COVID came, and it was almost like, because Mari and I have followed this since December of 2019, and when things started unraveling, and then the CDC came out in February with the warning, we took it serious because that warning was given in Japan, in China, and it happened. And we followed this, so we had a sense of history with this situation. And I don't care what you say out there, the deaths are up. We're still having really bad bouts of COVID cases. Our lives are nowhere near normal. I don't care that we're open right now. If you people are happy with the way things are now and are not willing to go through a full lockdown for 4 to 6 weeks wearing masks when you do leave the house, this is what we're going to be dealing with for the next several years if we don't crack down now and stop it. Just saying. At least wear a mask. Okay? It's not that hard. I find it so unfortunate that so many people complain about wearing, and look, they sell masks that you could wear that maybe it's something that you like, a TV show or a sporting team or a political message. I don't care if it's offensive, at least you're wearing the mask. And so many Americans have a problem with it, and it's sad. It's sad that they have been brainwashed to believe that the medical experts around the world have conspired together to lie to you about this virus. That's what's sad, is that the people that deny this virus and deny what's happening, they believe that means they believe what the whole world is lying, that COVID is fake and this is a global effort. That's a serious claim. That's going to need serious evidence. You have to prove that. You just can't make a hearsay statement like that, where all these years we have trusted the governance of medical science until now, because we have a president who might be challenging certain people that doesn't agree with the president's message that helps a different cause. And the cause is public health and safety. That's why we're in this mess right now, guys. This all goes back to the virus. We haven't even talked about jobs numbers. President Trump is bragging that we've added 9.3 million jobs in just 3 months. That is absolutely remarkable. But we added 2.5 million jobs in May and added 4.8 million jobs in June, and in July added 1.8 million jobs. Sorry if my math is not 100% correct, but you get the picture. July saw a huge decrease in the growth and the speed of this recovery. We had to roll back some state openings. Bars had to be rolled back. Restaurants had to be rolled back. People went back to unemployment. Some of these small businesses might have had to say, you know what, that's it. We're done. Because part of this CARES Act that's also expired, not just the unemployment benefits, but the PPP loans. These small businesses have no way to secure funds to pay the payrolls or the bills to keep their business where it is now for when it is safe to open up again. So we wouldn't be talking about these bills if we would have just taken this serious in the first place. Even if you don't believe the masks work, is it really that hard to wear it for a month to a month and a half? If we did it together and just said, let's get this over with, wouldn't that be worth it to maybe be back to a somewhat better normalcy by Christmas? Maybe? Think about the spread of the flu. If people wore masks this fall, we would see less flu infection, we would see less COVID infection, and we wouldn't see an overwhelming response to our medical system. Just by wearing a mask for 4 to 6 weeks as a country, let's unite and do it for the good of all. Not just for the elderly, the one with underlying conditions, but for children that might have complications from this virus for years to come. Or even young people who are catching it now. I had a friend in Ohio who lost a 20-year-old daughter. 20 years old. She had no underlying conditions. She was fit and trim, no health issues, 20 years old, and she died of COVID. I just don't understand why it has to take personal experience for people to really believe this. You don't want this, folks. You don't want this happening to your family members. You don't want this happening to your friends. And that's the thing. The shocking part about this is that Trump has already explained that he's lost 5 friends. Now make it 6 because of Herman Cain's death. And if you're a human and you held a rally and your friend, the last time was seen in public with a smile on his face, was in an arena where no social distancing was happening and no masks were worn, and he's a cancer patient survivor, so he has a suppressed immune system. 9 days later, he's admitted into the hospital. 9 days later, guys, that's not a coincidence. Say what you want. You can't prove that he caught it at the rally. Well, it's pretty ironic that 9 days later, he was hospitalized. And unfortunately, 30 days later, succumbed to his illness. There's no way that Donald Trump doesn't think about that and knows that there's a good percent. If it's not 100%, if it's not 80%, there's a 30 to 60% chance that Herman Cain caught the virus at the rally. Because the numbers in Oklahoma started to go up after that, 2 weeks later. Again, I'm not here to hate on Trump. Up until this point, he did fine for the country. Well, he still had a racial issue, so he was not doing so good with racial tensions. I won't give him credit for that. But economics, foreign policies, things were okay. But because of what Mari and I knew about this virus, we knew that this was nothing to take joke about, serious. You go with the caution. We lived in New York when this all came out, and we saw and heard ambulances. Not a lot here in our area, but so many news stories about how people could just sit by their window and hear the barrage of sirens from morning to night. And yes, New York City was hit the hardest. And seeing that coverage on our local news, it hits you a little bit different. And then you got people who live in South Dakota who have not had a problem with this. So it's hard for them to comprehend, like, we're not having the problem out here. You guys are crazy. So when they hear their president speak the way he speaks, those are the people that are going to listen because they live in an area that has not been badly affected by the virus. So we have had the worst year in the history of global politics ever. And I don't care. Everybody can agree with me on this. From the virus, the market crash, the unemployment, the killing of George Floyd, the protest being hijacked by rioters and then turning it into something different. Then you had the United States government gassing people for photo ops. You had presidents sending in federal troops and almost feeling like martial law type situations. Now, some of these states probably needed the help. Portland, Chicago. I can't really disagree that they needed the help. But the claims are that when the federal troops showed up, that's when it got more violent. That's the claim. But who do you believe? You got a president that tells you that CBS, CNN, ABC, NBC, they're all fake news. And Fox tells the truth. And OAN. What's important to Fox News right now? Let's look at their headlines. Because they're just as guilty. And I'll tell you, there's a headline here that should make your stomach turn. After what I told you about the payroll tax, look at this. They're trying to spin it. Here, I'll do my, listen to this music. That's not. Trump payroll tax executive order likely worth $1,200 per worker. So you have Fox News pushing this. Okay. Fox News does not talk about the payroll tax being paid back. All they talk about is that it's roughly worth $1,200 per employee. And then they briefly mention the state unemployments, about the $400. They don't talk about, they don't want to mention the white elephant in the room, and that is Trump saying, I'm gonna get rid of the repayment of the tax cut if you vote for me, and I win. I won't make you pay it back. But Fox doesn't tell that side of the story. And it's not CNN making up fake news, because if you watched his announcement yesterday, you heard him say that. I am going to forgive the repayment of the tax payroll cut from August to December if I win. Fox Business is covering it up and is promoting this $1,200 per worker situation like it's a good thing. $1,200, maybe you have to pay it back, maybe you don't. And let's get real, folks. We all know that the tax return system is going to be a lot different, obviously. I mean, these bills have to get paid for somehow. So I hope everybody understands that when tax season comes around next year, that people are going, hey, what happened to my giant tax return? Well, remember in 2020, some of you got your tax return, and then you got all this stimulus money, and then you got this unemployment benefit. Yeah. Somehow they're going to have to claw this money back. So I'm just being the bearer of bad news early. Be prepared for a very, very, very reduced rate of a tax return coming up in the spring of 2021. If not this year coming up, possibly in the future and moving forward. But it's sad that Fox News, who the president says you can trust, and this is the only news site you should watch and listen to, Fox Business does not include the part about how Trump will make it permanent if he wins the re-election. They don't mention that part. They don't mention that you have to pay this back over time. They are misleading you to believe that you're getting a $1,200 bonus over 4 months. So, everything that he did yesterday is showing that it was smoke and mirrors. It was a distraction. It was the way to try to fool naive people into believing that the Democrats themselves were responsible for his actions. And in this case, inaction. As it stands right now, I say 5% of the country will see this $400 enhancement. 5%. There might be a couple states that do it just out of plain loyalty to Donald Trump. Arizona, Florida. I could see those two states doing it just to spite the rest of the governors around the country. People are afraid of losing their job if they go an inch against Donald Trump. And it's going to make, and Mari pointed out Arizona, I point out Florida, and it's because both of those governors, to me, show weakness. They are yes men to the president. Same with that guy in Georgia, Governor Kemp. Look at the problems that we're having in Georgia with the compliance of the virus, their daily cases, the death rates going up. Guys, bottom line is, it doesn't matter at this point who wins the election on November. I say this because we are going to be dealing with this COVID crisis for many years. Our economy is going to struggle for a few years. We are seeing numbers that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, and it took several years to pull out of that. Think about how long it's going to take us to pull out of this. It's not going to be a quick recovery. We already saw July's numbers slow way down by 3 million jobs. They were expecting it to go up, not back down. And with the virus surging, and we're getting closer and closer to flu season, projection models of the virus killing at least 300,000 people in the United States if everyone is not willing to wear a mask. If we get everybody on board to wearing a mask, we may save 70,000 lives. That would only add somewhere around 80,000 more deaths, 70,000 more deaths, compared to 140,000 deaths. That's a big difference. Again, if you snuff out the virus and do not provide it with a vehicle to transmit, the virus then will disappear. That's it. But until you take severe, and look, Italy took severe measures, France took severe measures, Germany took severe measures. So many countries overseas that took that 6 to 10 week shutdown approach. And they are now seeing a more stabilized virus count, manageable, and contact tracing works when the numbers are very low. Contact tracing does not work when you're averaging 50 to 70,000 cases a day. It doesn't work. It's impossible to keep up. So if anything, I want everybody to take away from this video, I want you guys to really sit back and think about what just happened on Friday and Saturday. 2 major political announcements at his private golf club that profited from this. You know that his members paid to be at that event. They're not members of that club because they get free stuff. They're members of that golf club because they pay. Okay? So the administration, his personal affairs benefit Friday and Saturday. Not only does his personal affairs benefit, but he lied to the American public and bribed the American vote right there on national TV, live. And yeah, it's a lie. It's a lie because the states didn't know they were going to have to pay $100 to unemployment. And these states need help. They're not going to get money to get help, so they can't pay for it. So guess what? That employment extension is not going to be offered to all Americans, unemployed Americans, like he said. He lied about the evictions. That's not an order to save evictions. It's an order to give the HHS permission to declare an emergency so they can proceed in the process to protect you from evictions. Meanwhile, cases are up. Cases are starting back up again. People are facing eviction hearings. So now you have to depend on the speed of the government bureaucracy to get you out of this mess. Number 3, the payroll tax cut. That is paid back if he loses the election. If he wins the election, you don't have to pay it back. And then, of course, the final thing is with the school loans, don't worry, you won't be charged interest for being late on your payments. Well, no duh. So when you see this guy next time, tell the American people that he cares about them and that he wants to get the relief to the working families like they need it. Folks, I hate to say this, but he is lying to you. It's not true. If that was the case, then he would have put out executive orders that didn't pull strings, that did what they said they were going to do. Protect evictions, extend unemployment. Payroll tax cut's a bad idea. That didn't even have to be added. That shouldn't even be a part of the executive orders. I think you should give people a back-to-work bonus that doesn't have to be paid back. How many, show of hands out there in the chat, how many of you have paid back your bonuses? I want to see somebody comment in the chat right now. How many of you, after you received your bonus, had to pay it back within the year or two? I'll wait. No? Nobody? It's not a bonus, is it? It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. Fox News wants me to turn off my ad blocker. Listen to this. You guys hear that? Did Barack Obama, George Bush, or Bill Clinton, did they ever come out during a time crises and have happy-go-lucky presidential song playing in the background like this was some kind of campaign rally. Have you ever seen a man advertise himself in such a positive light during such a terrible time in our history? I pray for him. I pray that sooner than later that he wakes up. He cannot hide from this anymore. He cannot hide from this anymore. This disease has crumbled this, and don't start with the markets. When they passed the CARES Act, there was $4 trillion set aside for the Treasury. Steve Mnuchin, $4 trillion to apply to stabilize the markets. That's right. $4 trillion was set aside for big corporations and industries so that they did not fail during a time of crisis. Now, if that's not buying the vote of corporate America, I don't know what is. So he's soliciting his votes by he's soliciting his votes corporately by pumping money into the markets. And then he's peddling out to the peasants. Let's call us American voters the peasants. Throwing out breadcrumbs and saying, you don't have to worry about paying this back. Eat the breadcrumbs. It's fine. It's fine. Just go ahead and keep it. Just vote for me and we'll be okay. Again, this is an actor. This is a business owner. This is a man who is in sales. He has made lots of money because of his ability of pulling off the sale. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So, again, to all of those anti-Trump people out there who are yelling and screaming impeachment, this and that, and calling us names for supporting him and all that stuff, listen, you're not going to get anybody to listen to you or take you seriously if you're going to yell and cuss and insult and call names. The way you get people to think about things and change their mind is presenting the facts without the name calling, without the insults. Present the black and white. Let the person make the decision for themselves. And I feel like today I have laid out nothing but the facts. And then if you read the fine print, what happened yesterday was nothing more than a political campaign stunt. And it's now created confusion with the states. It's creating confusion now with the voters. And if anything, it's firming up the Democratic voter, and it's also starting to firm up the people who are on the fence, which is not voting at all. And then to put the cherry on top, Kanye West and Donald Trump are working together to take away Democratic votes, and they're not even hiding it. They're pretty much coming out and spelling it out that they are doing this to hurt the Democratic vote, because there are Democratic voters out there who are not sold on Biden. And maybe this is their revenge vote. This is the way to get back at their party by just not voting for either party and voting for another person who they don't think really is going to win, but that's why they vote that person. They know that vote's safe. They know that person won't become president. It's a throwaway vote. It's a dirty political trick. And it happens on both sides. The Democrats and Republicans both do it. All I'm seeing right now is a president who is pulling off tricks from a playbook, like a flea flicker or a fake reverse. An incumbent president shouldn't have to pull out trick plays of the playbook. An incumbent president should just be able to lay out what he's going to do for the country in the next 4 years, what he has done for the country in the last 4 years, and what he intends to do to build that bridge between racial equality and other social injustices that happen in this country. That's what an incumbent president's message should sound like. Making America stronger, not using dirty tricks to deceive and trick voters. Now you're playing with people's emotions. I can't imagine the people that have skin in this right now and how bad they feel. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. But again, like I was saying, if you're a Democrat and you want to get through to a Republican or a Trump supporter, using ad hominem is not going to work. Calling them crazy or this and that, or accusing a supporter of any political group as a racist or whatever, it's not going to work. Give them the facts. Counter with the facts. Well, President Trump just signed an executive order for unemployment. Well, yeah, but it only happens if the state pays $100. They're already paying $375. States are losing money. They don't have the budget for it, so that's not going to happen. Well, what about the evictions? He signed a protection for eviction. No, yeah, he signed an order that says HHS needs to declare an emergency before they can start the red tape and the bureaucracy of this. What about the payroll tax cut? Well, yes, you'll get that, but you're supposed to pay it back. But if Trump wins the election, you don't have to worry about paying for it. Tell me that doesn't sound shady, guys. Tell me that doesn't sound shady. I feel like we got like some mob-like shit going on. Yeah, people are upset. More censorship. I'm out here. Goodbye. I'm not going to be jumping on the conspiracy train here with the rest of these folks out there who believe that this is fake news. This is real life. You're being lied to. And if you don't want to accept it, that's fine. That's your choice. I can't make you listen. I can only present the evidence. I'm not going to lose any sleep if you don't agree with me. At least I know that I provided a platform for people to look at this side of it, what I presented today, and think about it. What you do with this information is up to you. I did it to help people see the BS and the games that are being played with right now. And it's not just Trump. It's the Democrats. It's the Republicans. It's the Secretary of Treasury. It's all of them. They are well-off, rich politicians. None of them know what it's like to worry about paying their bills. None of them know what it's like to worry about feeding their families. They don't share the same worries that you and I share. And right now, their actions are proving that. So until I see action that benefits for the American people with no strings attached, real relief, I don't believe you. Whether it's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I don't believe you. Whether it's Donald Trump and Mark Meadows and Steve Mnuchin, I don't believe you. Or Mitch McConnell, I don't believe you. I don't believe anybody right now that's sitting in either party. Action is the only thing that I'm going to believe from now on. Say what you want. I want to see it in writing. And that's what the American voters should be doing right now, is holding these politicians accountable. Right now, there is a month-long recess in the Congress. Your tax dollars are paying their salaried vacation for 4 weeks while you stand in food lines, while you have to stay home and deal with your child in homeschooling because it's not safe to send them to school yet. Well, you deal with collection calls and eviction notices because there's no action from Congress, Senate, or the White House. And in my opinion, they're all cowards. There is no leadership right now on either side. Point blank. Things aren't going to get magically better when Biden wins. I tell you that. And things won't get better just because Trump is reelected. The problems that we are facing right now are staying here for quite some time. So if Biden wins, me being a Republican, am I going to freak out? No. He's not going to be able to pass much of an agenda because there's going to be too many pressing issues that we have to deal with now because they weren't dealt with before. Whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden, both of them have a very steep mountain to climb in the future and beyond. Just curious what they were actually trying to push. Was he talking in the chat?
No, the virus is bullshit. Don't wear masks. That's.
Oh. Yeah, people telling people not to wear masks. That's sad. That's sad. It's sad.
It pisses me off because I got people in medicine in New York City.
Yeah.
To save people. I just can't accept to deny that this is a problem. You got dead people piling up in refrigerated trucks, and you still have people ignorant to say it's just the flu.
If you do,
when is just the flu? Do we have refrigerated trucks in our major cities?
Never.
When do we have these big mass graves like this? Don't tell me it's just the flu.
Yeah, locally, I get that, Richard, but that's not happening everywhere either. Gangs, militias, martial law. I think both sides of the media is playing games with us all, guys. Unfortunately, I don't think there's not an outlet out there that you have to basically discern the best you can with your own common sense. You look at all the reports, look at all the channels, compare the articles, and make your own decision. You can no longer rely on the media or the press of any kind to give you the facts straight. I mean, look at Fox News. They didn't tell you about the $1,200 that may have to be paid back. They don't tell you about that. They're sweeping that under the rug. But do you believe CNN? Most of you don't, because you've been told what fake news they are. Same with the other outlets. So what do you believe? You have to start looking at morals. You have to start looking at the action of these words and what's really happening. And right now, these 4 executive orders don't mean jack shiite. So, let's hope I've got something better to report next week when we do Middleman Politics. If anything, this might open up more negotiations for relief that's needed for just more than just unemployment, but there's all kinds of things. PPP loans, money for schools, money for actual workers who have been working during this pandemic. That has to happen. The people who have been working, not just the doctors and the first responders, but your grocery workers. The people who were told that they were essential but get paid minimum wage or less. I want to see the American people and the American workers get their fair cut. And right now, if you're a corporation or a CEO, you're the only one that's sitting comfortable. That's got to change. Guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.